Hi YouTube, this is Tim here again for the weapon of the week. This time I decided to make a hand axe, and I decided to make it in the style of a bearded axe. I make no claims to its historicity or whether or not it resembles any weapon in real life or fantasy, but it's pretty handy. I like it. It's a little bit like a tomahawk. You can imagine using it, and I chose to give it a beard, but that's the final step in the creation that I show. In about the next 25 minutes, you'll be able to go from several lengths of pipe to something like this. So have fun, get crafting, and I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so to begin making a basic hand axe, what we're going to do is measure out 10 inches of 1-inch pipe and a 2-foot section of 3/4 inch pipe. You can alter any of these dimensions to your personal taste, but this is what I'm going to do. And if you like it, that's cool. If you don't, like I say, you can change it however you like. I'm going to measure in about 2 inches from one side, say 2.5 inches. 2 to 2.5, so right here and here. I'm going to mark that spot. Right around there. This is roughly where I'm going to insert the haft through the blade. You can make that closer up to the front, you can make that further back, but for now that's where I'm going to plan on it, and I might change my mind later. We'll see. But for now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the PVC at 10 inches. I'm not going to concentrate quite so much on one area, as I'm going to show you something that'll save you a little bit of time later. Starting to soften already. Great. So now, let's assume that this is the bottom where we've been making the marks. So start right about there and cut at an angle up to the top. There you go. From one side and from the other side. When we flatten that out, that'll look more like a spike, and it'll look kind of cool. You could also cut evenly from both sides to make it pointed in the center. Again, just basically do whatever you like. This is really flexible. PVC is such a simple, fun medium to work with. Oh, now we're going to go ahead and flatten it. We're going to flatten it from about 1.5 inches from the point where we're going to haft it all the way to the end. It's going to be a nice sharp taper. If you're feeling exceptionally lazy, I have in the past, just set the heat gun down about 8 inches away from the mouth of the pipe, forcing air through it, propping it up at the very back with something to keep the airflow angled right down the length of the tube. And as long as it's far enough away, you're not going to end up burning the pipe. You'll just soften it evenly. But in general, it's not a good practice. You could cause a lot of burning, you could cause a lot of headaches, both literally and figuratively. Far better to just go ahead and do it by hand like this. It only takes about 2 minutes tops. If you don't feel like touching it for a small piece, you can rock it back and forth. Hit 2 sides, let it rock, gives you access to another side, rock it further, gives you access to more sides. Then you don't even need to touch it. Although having gloves or a pot holder or towel is very helpful. Still, you have choices. That's nice and soft. So now I'm going to go ahead, we're going to flatten the blade. Like I said, from about 1 inch from where we're going to haft it. There we go. I keep forgetting, since I'm using a very long piece of 2x4, if you put it up here, it can't create a sharp enough angle to create a totally flat tip. So if you need to do that, just go ahead and move it off to the edge. Do the flattening on the edge of the table rather than the center. Or use a shorter piece of 2x4. 2x4 is much better in my opinion than the thinner boards, the 1x4s. It's a lot stiffer, and for me that's better. Your mileage may vary. Just use whatever looks and feels good to you. Get the taper of the blade to whatever you want it to be. You know, this is not rocket science. Just make sure you're happy with it. Once I flatten it so much, I'll flip it over just to make sure it's nice and even, and continue flattening it on the other side. Like I noted with the Katana video, this slows it down. Doing it on wood and wood, if you had stone, man, if you had a granite countertop, you could really draw the heat out of this thing very quickly. That would be ideal. Otherwise, something that's nice to do is to just clamp it and walk away. Then you can come back in 5 minutes and it'll have cooled off nicely, naturally, on its own. A whole bunch of us online have talked about whether or not hitting it with water is going to create a weakness in it, and the consensus seems to be that it's probably not going to cause a problem, although we haven't proven that definitively. It seems like the glass transition temperature, the point at which the PVC freezes, is already not that far beyond the point at which it's plastic and flexible. You shouldn't be altering the situation all that much. Okay, it's about ready. Circulate a little air over it. You could even, if you wanted, force air, blow down the end of the tube, force it through to cool off faster. I'm going to run it into the sink real quick. There we go. That's essentially all we need to do. We're just going to flatten the very back to pinch it off and then cut a hole here for the haft. So let's do that now. Let's cut the hole first. See, there's a little bit of nutty brown burn. If you do that much when you're making bows, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm not saying there's no problem with doing it that much, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. You could burn it a lot more and a lot worse, as long as it's not in a critical bending area. Generally, if it's pretty high up the limb, yow, that's hot. You'll be in good shape. So now we're doing the exact same thing on the top side of the pipe. There we go. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a try to shove the pipe through without any real effort at forcing or fitting. It might tear a little bit, but that's okay. There we go. And just align the blade, make sure it's perpendicular to the haft and that it's as far down as you want it. You can adjust all that later, but mostly make sure it's perpendicular and that it's in line, that the blade is in line. Wow, you can really see it all coming together. This is going to be a nice tomahawk. If we wanted to, something you could do is make a cut. Now, from one side up near the top, several inches in to the bottom, and then you could fold that flap down to create a beard. You could create a beardish or a different form of axe head. This is more like a narrow tomahawk blade or something you'd used against an armored opponent. You can create whatever you like. Just like I said, if you wanted to, I'll draw the line on there so you could see how it would look. Start up at the upper corner and then cut back like so. Heat that area up with the heat gun and then snip, snip, snip. One half, not the whole thing, but just half. And then, right here at the bottom, you'll fold it down, and so it'll be nice and fat. It'll be double the length here at the front, tapering down. I'm just going to go ahead real quick and pinch off the back, the top, and the bottom. And that's essentially the finished war axe. I just sand everything up, hot glue it here, and coat it with some leather. Maybe do some nice wood graining on the handle. You can see that in some of my other videos. This is really not all that hard, but you get some really good results. And of course, if you like it like this, you're welcome to leave it like this. I'm not going to hold it against you. It's your equipment. The only bad PVC bow or weapon is one that doesn't make you happy. With the bows, I'm usually much more careful about not burning it. These are mostly for show, especially the axe. I'm not going to go ahead and be hitting somebody with this. So I'm not too concerned if it can stand up to some heavy use. That's not the point of it after all. So the same way you flatten the front, just flatten the back. If you like this tutorial, I'm putting together a playlist which I'll put in the upper right hand corner of the screen right now. You can go ahead and click there and it'll show you all the other PVC weapons that I've made. The Katana, I demoed a whole bunch of them, including a Roman gladius, a Turkish kilich, or it's kind of like the US Marine Corps' Mameluke sword, and a tomahawk, which is not exactly the same as this one. I was patterning it after the Connor Kenway tomahawk from Assassin's Creed 3. You got so many cool things you can do. This is the first time I've ever made something quite like this. The tomahawk maybe is the exception. I usually make swords because they're a lot of fun, but I could see liking making stuff like this too. Especially with the longer handle, it feels more like a war axe. Yeah, see, it doesn't want to hold its shape because it got really hot and it's not losing any heat through the wood. So just be patient. Tilt one side up, blow on it, and keep pressing. Tilt it up, blow. That'll help accelerate it. A little bit of convective current help to remove some of the excess heat. Great. Quick blast under the water. I'm not going to pinch the top on this video because I'm actually going to go ahead, sand it, and do some wood grain on it. So I won't pinch the top. If I pinch the top, that'll make it fatter, and unless I then trim it with something, you're not going to be able to get this off. I'm not going to do that until I finish the whole haft. But I will pinch the bottom because it's the exact same technique you'd use on the top. And it's the exact same technique we've used on every other part here. Like I say, this is not rocket science. Pretty much anybody can do this in about 20 minutes. You don't have to have a lot of experience. But since nothing is going to be forced on through this side, I can go ahead and close it off. That should do the trick. The smaller the area you're heating, the faster it's gonna heat. So again, just make sure everything's square. Hold the blade horizontal unless you want the flattened area to be side to side or at an angle. You can do pretty much anything. It will depend a little bit on how you decorate it later. That might be more suitable. If you wanted to curve this piece, just heat it gently and heat the whole thing gently, and then hold it in whatever final shape you want it. Just get some heat pads and hold it however you like, and in a minute you won't have to press it or anything. It'll be done. You can flatten areas of the handle if you like, or leave it like this. Flattening it makes it feel, in my eyes, a little bit better in the hand. Let's flip it and do it equally on the other side. What I typically do is take a hacksaw or a coping saw and I cut round the edge. I round the edges off. If I end up having large gaps, I can fill them with hot glue or aquarium sealer, anything like that. And that's probably what I'll end up doing here along the back by the spike. It's fairly open. I'll sand it down, maybe I'll pinch it shut, but more likely I'll just fill it with some hot glue. And then that can all be painted over. There we go. Hit the bottom with a little bit of water again. Now it'll hold its shape. And there you go. That's the finished war axe. If you wanted to, again, cut here, fold it down to make a beard, and it'll look really, really awesome. I suppose I could go ahead and do that right now. When you're doing this, you're only heating one side, so don't rotate it. Just continually move, but gently heat one side. It'll start to puff up. You don't want it to fully become round. That's not the purpose. If you do it too much, you'll actually have to re-flatten the whole thing, and you're going to use the flattening jig anyway, but you might as well just try and save as much work as possible. Now remember, you're only heating it here. You want to heat the bottom edge and everything within this triangle on the bottom side. The more you heat, the farther away you want to pull the heat gun. That'll help slow it down. I know the instinct is to rush it along, but there's no sense in that. Just take your time. The results will turn out better. Okay, it's starting to puff up. So now's the perfect time to go in with the heat, or the tin snips, starting at the top center. We're just going to cut down to the bottom. There we go. Now, one more snip. Great. Hit it again with your heat gun because you want it to remain soft and pliable. Now that you're simultaneously heating it from all sides, just remember it's going to heat up a lot faster. Now that we know it's very nice and soft, just use your jig and flatten it down. I'm just trying to occasionally pull it up and squish down the end of the other part of the tomahawk blade, or the axe blade that didn't form part of the beard. By altering the angle of the cut, you'll be able to alter the profile of the beard without doing too much additional work. But now if you wanted to go ahead and flatten it, leave the block here, heat this area up after the other part is cooled, and then you could flatten it again. Imagine just a little bit of saw and trimming and sanding, and you'll have a nice graceful beard to it. On this side, a little bit of light heating, filling in with some hot glue or epoxy putty, and definitely a little sanding down, and that'll be a beautiful bearded axe head. Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, the build along, and I hope you can make some really cool stuff with it. Starting to round out the sort of arsenal that you can build using PVC. Nothing but basic tools that even the most goofy, useless, not handy guy like me can make stuff with. So if you're more handy than me, I'm sure you can do some really awesome stuff. Go ahead and post links to it, or tell me about it in the notes, post videos to it, make responses to my videos. Come and join us on Google+. It is an archery and crafting community, meaning this is crafting. You can do a whole lot of other stuff other than just bows and arrows. So if you like stuff like this, please just go ahead and join us, and we'd love to see the things you come up with. Thanks, YouTube. See you later.